You've tuned into InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, a video podcast series. Our episode starts right now. Here's your host, Dominique Vale.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, where you can check in for your dose of stigma-breaking, humor-filling, motivation-loving life hacks and empowering tips for all of the medically adultish people in your life. I'm Dominique Vale, founder of InvisiYouth Charity and host of InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, and today we are back with Season 6, Episode 87, and today is a very special episode for many different reasons. One of them being that we are going to have a returning guest back on the podcast this episode. I'm super happy about that because all throughout Season 6 and Season 7 in 2025, we will be bringing back former guests from the podcast for us to get to catch up with. And this one in particular, I'm super excited to get to catch up with all of you. It is British actress and disability activist Melissa Johns. And from the United Kingdom, Melissa was born without her right hand and lower arm and has also taken her love of acting and evolved it into a phenomenal career. She graduated from East 15 Acting School and I'm going to list off a bunch of accolades that I'm super happy about. Melissa was featured in Shaw Trust's Power List of 100 Most Influential Disabled People in the UK. She was part of the BAFTA's Elevate program. She is a celebrity ambassador for Models of Diversity and InvisiYouth Charity, and is the co-founder of the nonprofit TripleC and DANC, and they both do phenomenal work for artists with disabilities and have workshops and platforms that allow them to really harness their craft and voice in the community. And her acting career has truly flourished as well, so much, from her days on Coronation Street and BBC's Life to being in 2015's The Inceptor, playing Sadie Moore, and even playing herself on Celebrity MasterChef. Melissa has grown in so much in her acting career, and most recently, you would have seen Melissa playing years on a series regular as Miss Scott on the popular ITV period detective show Grantchester. So I'm so excited I get to have a great episode catching up with Melissa and having her back on the podcast. So Melissa, welcome back to the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions.
Hello, this is exciting. It's been 6 years.
It's been nuts, and you and I haven't aged at all, which is the most important part.
I think we look younger.
We do, actually. I think so. So I'm so excited to get to jump into our 4 segments, and as always, I like to remind everybody that you should be clicking that subscribe button if you haven't already on our YouTube channel. If you are watching Melissa and I, or if you are on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, make sure you're clicking that button. So I'll send you another reminder at the end, but you guys have got about 45 or 50 minutes to make sure you click that button. But without further ado, we're going to jump into our very first segment, 5-second challenge.
5-second challenge. 5-second challenge.
5-second challenge, that's when I get to rapid fire questions with our special guest and we get to know them better. So this is a intro to all of you who are new to Melissa, and a refresher course for me on all new things about Melissa. So, okay. First one is, if you had a day off from work and everything, what would be your go-to activity to do?
I would push myself to try and have a day on the sofa with my quilt and pillow and partner and dog and back-to-back watch Friday Night Lights.
Ooh, oh my God, I like that.
Yeah, that's what it would be.
If you could be an absolute expert guru in a certain activity, what would you want to be a perfect expert at?
The stars. So I'd love to know more about the universe, and I would just bore people constantly. As soon as the stars came out, I'd bore people with all the facts that I knew about them, but I would that would be my specialist subject.
Oh, I like that. That's really we just had a solar eclipse in the States, so you could have been talking the whole time and letting us know all about it.
I could have been telling everyone why it was happening and how apparently we're not going to get one again in this lifetime, and probably have one in 10 years' time, because I'm sure that I've already been told in my lifetime that the one I've just seen is never going to happen again, and I think there's been about 4.
Exactly. Oh my God. What if you won the lottery, what would you want to spend your winnings on? This can be, you can pick something fun, or, you know, you can pay off your bills as well. We can go logistical.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of money, so I'd split it up a little bit. I would pay off my mortgage. We really want to build a house, so we would buy some land and we would build our own eco-friendly house, and we'd travel, and I would give money to my family.
Oh, I love that. Oh, that was both ways, Melissa. You were like doing it both. Oh my God. What is something you bring onto set that's not like I bring my phone or I bring something to eat? Like, what's something kind of random that you always bring with you on a set?
Oh, what do I always bring on set with me? My perfume. So I was working with an actor once who has a different perfume for every character. And I can't quite do that because that would be it doesn't feel right to do it for every character. But I always have my little spray bottle of perfume with me. And I try to choose a slightly different one depending on the character.
Oh, I like that. That's a really good answer. I like that. If you could pick a character that you would have loved to have auditioned for in a film or TV show that you saw, what was one that you're like, even it could be like even an old film as well that you were like, this I would have loved to have tried out for this?
Barbie.
Oh, ooh, I like that.
I don't think that would have happened because I think Margot Robbie did a fantastic job. But on the off chance that they make another one where they celebrate body difference and limb difference, then I would be limb difference Barbie.
I love that. There we go. I like that really a lot. And then what was a recent trip or activity you did that like had a lot of fun memories for you?
I recently got back from Italy, so I wrote a play and sold it, and we're now making it a TV show, which I know we're going to talk about. And I was in a position to be able to buy my parents a holiday. So
Nice.
I've never been able to do it before. But it was me, my mum, my dad, and my little brother, and we did 5 nights in Italy. We did 2 nights in Venice and 3 nights in Lake Garda. And you know, it's holidays with parents will always add that little bit of stress. But it was absolutely so many lovely memories were made, and I'll remember that for a very long time.
Oh, I love that. And the Italian in me loves that you picked the homeland, as I would say. So
I was thinking as I said it, I thought, she's going to like this one.
I love that. If you had to pick between going back in time to meet your ancestors or going into the future to meet your descendants, which would you pick?
Going back in time.
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah.
Me too.
Always.
You're like, the kids can come back and visit me in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, let them have their time again. Go back and see what they're up to.
Oh, I like that. Do you have a favorite costume that you've worn for any of the characters you've played over the years?
I think my Miss Scott costume in Grantchester will always be my favourite. I think it will take a lot to beat it. It's late 1950s / early 1960s, and it's so far from anything that I get to wear now as a 33-year-old woman living in 2024. And so I just love wearing her clothes. She's got amazing fashion.
Yeah, and the hair too. Your hair's always wonderful.
I know all of this gets wrapped up. Can you believe all
I know.
of this
It's always
is in a wig?
I can't. Oh my God. If I know you have one of the most beautiful dogs anytime popping up on your Instagram, I love, but if you were going to add another pet to the family, would you add another dog or totally go for another type of pet?
Oh, that's a good one. If we had the room, maybe like a pig or a goat.
So this is why we're friends. I always wanted a pet pig.
Yeah, a pet pig. I probably would have a pet pig actually. And actually these 5-second things are brilliant because I don't think I've ever said out loud that I would quite like a pet pig, but yeah, pet pig, why not?
What is something that you do that instantly makes you feel better? Like a go-to that you're like, oh, this makes me feel nice and relaxed.
Having a bath or going for a walk.
Walks do it. Walks can do that. I know you were on one reality show before where you got to show off those cooking skills of yours, but if you could go on another reality show, which one would you pick?
Taskmaster. So
I love Taskmaster. This is so non-American of me to know, but this is such a fun show.
It's fantastic. And I did say to my agent, so I've done MasterChef and I've done Celebrity Mastermind, and I didn't do well in either of them. And I called my agent up and I said, please, I'm not doing anything else with the word master in it. I'm just not, like, it's I can't do any more of these shows. I'm clearly not a master of anything. And then I watched Taskmaster and I was like, wait, there's one rule. If Taskmaster comes up, then I'm on it.
I expect just a DM just with the word, and I will know that it's coming.
I hope so. That would be my one.
Oh my God, and you would do so well on that too. You've got a really good personality for that, so I think you would do really well.
It always used to be something like Strictly Come Dancing, and now I'm just like, no, I think it's Taskmaster. Yeah.
You're like, screw the ballroom. I want to have fun.
Yeah.
And then what's one song that when it comes on the radio or you put it on your playlist that you're immediately gonna bob around or dance to when you hear it?
Yeah, Cyndi Lauper, Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
It's a good go-to. That is a good go-to.
Yeah, it's been there for a while and it didn't take much thinking about, so that must be the one.
I was gonna say that was quite the knee-jerk reaction. You were like,
really was.
I know. Oh my God. Melissa, I feel like I got to know you even better as well through all of this as well. So that was a great rapid fire questions. And before we go into our next segment, something else that you guys know I love is our InvisiYouth charity shop. You know that's where we sell our Subtle Activist color block bracelets. I'm wearing a couple of them now. They're on display behind me, and they are made by all of our volunteers with chronic illness and disability and shipped by them, and as they help us run our Etsy store. So we always ask you guys, if you want to have some subtle activism and some chic, some jewelry in your life, for $4 with free global shipping, you can get one of our Subtle Activist bracelets and wear one, and it makes a 100% donation. So basically it's like making a $4 donation and getting a bracelet in return from us. So we definitely recommend you do that and pop up on our Etsy page for some subtle activism. As we say, nothing is more entertaining than wearing the Starbucks cup that made its way on that Game of Thrones episode that one time. And that's how we like our activism to be. So if you can, we would thoroughly appreciate you popping over to our shop. And now we're going to our next segment, Chat Me Up.
Chat me up. Hey, wanna chat?
Chat Me Up is where we get to go through our how-tos and tips on people and their life. So with Melissa today, we are obviously catching up. So I wanted to talk to her about her life in her acting career and how she has felt over the years the acting industry has evolved as well. So I know when we had you on from season 1 to now, saying your career has really blossomed into something wonderful would be such an understatement, because it's like, it's so fabulous to get you see in so many different projects. But you've done television, you've done film, you've done stage work. So are there different things for each of those types of acting you've done that you enjoy that are kind of unique to each of them?
Yeah, absolutely. I think anyone and most actors fell in love with acting because of stage, and so it's just I will always love everything about stage in terms of the way it makes you feel, the fact that if you get it wrong only you can save yourself. It's such a brilliant part of our careers as actors. TV is slightly different in the sense that you form a kind of different connection with the people around you. So with theatre, there's a lot of pressure on the body, there's a lot of anxiety and nerves, and so those relationships can feel quite intense. Whereas with TV, I think your TV family get to see a better side of you because it's the side that can just be a little bit more relaxed. And I love both. If I can continue to have a career that I think is heavier in TV, because I particularly love TV the older I get, but if I can always make sure that I'm able to do theatre shows, that will make me very happy.
I like that. That is, like you said, that is so true, that having the people that work around you get to experience kind of different versions of you just because of the type of work that you're all doing. That's something I wouldn't have even thought of until you mentioned it.
Yeah, it's quite, as I say, I think there's an intensity to theatre, which makes sense. You know, you're going on in front of however many hundred people, and you know, it's all eyes on you to kind of do your best work, not just remember it and do it right, but do it well. But I think, you know, TV doesn't have as much of a strain on my body as theatre. So with theatre, I have to have kind of extra chiropractor sessions and extra physio, just because performing night after night is a lot. And so, you know, that one certainly takes its toll on my body a lot more.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's definitely true. And even kind of going off of your love of TV, I had mentioned you being on Grantchester and getting to be on that show and being a regular on it, and it's such a long running series, as you mentioned as well. Is there something that you've learned getting to be on a show with longevity and your character getting to be on it for so long, or that you feel like you've gotten to grow being able to hone in on one specific character and grow with her for so many seasons?
Yeah, absolutely. Playing Miss Scott in Grantchester has been my first opportunity in my career to play something for that long. So I joined in series 6, and we recently finished filming series 9. So it's been four seasons of being able to develop this character. And I think one of the most exciting things is when I talk to the producers and the writers. Every season I get more confident in saying, you know, oh, I really think she would do this, or I really think she wouldn't do that. Because actually, yes, of course they know the character, they know her very well because they created her. But I'm the one who put her shoes on, and I'm the one that walks the set in her shoes every day. And I think what I love is the confidence of just knowing how to react. You pick up the script and you sort of end up not even really thinking about it as much, because you just know how she would say that, or how she's going to react in that situation. But then also the other side of it, of just knowing that it really is one of the most amazing shows to be on. You know, I think everyone says that whatever show they're on is the best show, and maybe that's true. Maybe there's a lot of best shows out there, but honestly, the cast of Grantchester and the crew are just phenomenal people, and they make it one of the most special places to be. And I will forever be grateful that Grantchester is in my life. It's also been my constant. So I got cast in Grantchester in 2020 when no one knew what was happening with the world. We didn't know what was happening with our lives. We didn't know what was happening with our careers. We didn't know what was happening with our specific industry. And so getting that job was this a foundation for me, something for me to hold on to whilst the world was not quite knowing what it was going to do next. And Grantchester has stayed with me whilst the world got back to normal, whilst I left my previous relationship that I was in for like eight years. It was there for me when I was single at 31, having not been single since I was 23. It was there for me when I was single and working out once again how I felt about the body that I was given in the capacity of being single. And it was there for me when I met my fiance, Dan. And it was there for me when I got engaged. And, you know, it'll be there for me when I get married. It's been the show that has been there whilst I have changed and grown so much as a person. And I feel very lucky that it's the show that got to be there alongside me.
I love that's it's such a beautiful answer, and I really love that because, like I said to you when we were talking before, you can really see that you've settled in yourself, and that translates so well into when you're on screen in the character, and you can tell that there is this level of confidence you have playing her for so long as well, that you fit into that mold of it being, it is such an ensemble show. And when you come in, like you said, you came in series 6 and it's like, well, how is this going to work? This is sort of their routine, and you really kind of fall into the fold so nicely and have evolved with it. So I think, like you said, that also then coinciding and being a parallel to you having such evolution in your own life outside of it, I think that probably did kind of sprinkle into the way she turned out in your way of playing her and portraying her as well, in an ironic way.
Yeah, absolutely. I think those two things will always feed into each other. You're absolutely right.
Is there something, like you had mentioned, it is a period piece, and I know you've obviously, when you've done like Coronation Street, that's obviously modern, things like that. Is there something you enjoy about playing on a show that is a period show, like a specific age and genre of time period?
Yeah, absolutely. It's such a different world to the world that we know. And I think that when you do anything that's period, you get to romanticize it. You get to kind of glamorize it, because the only thing that you have to go on of that time are the things that you've seen that have also been slightly romanticized and glamorized. And that's, I can only imagine the hardship that took place and the battles that particularly a disabled woman in 1961 would have had to have gone through.
Yeah.
But actually playing that means that I can delve into that whenever I want, and when I just want to stick to the really gorgeous parts, I can just do that. And it feels, it's quite magical for me. It's like real TV, that you are absolutely creating a world that no longer exists, and that's such an amazing thing to be part of.
Yeah, that's really true. Yeah, I like how you phrased that. And I think even, like I was going to mention too, you've done so many different types of acting, and you've evolved so much over the years, and then doing even the work you do and your advocacy work too for other actors and people in the arts community as well, especially for the disabled actors in that are in the community too. You've kind of seen the good and bad in the industry, and have kind of gone and had all different types of experiences, I imagine, in your career too. But do you feel over the years that there's been more of an openness or an acceptance or willingness to have the conversation or bring people of disability or chronic illness to the table for characters? Or what do you feel like has been a shift or a development that you've noticed in the years?
Yeah, I think, we're in a better place than we've ever been. We have a history of actually this industry essentially telling deaf, disabled, neurodivergent, chronically ill people that this industry isn't for you. We haven't seen it in our storylines. We haven't seen it on our screens. We haven't seen it on our stages. When we have seen it, it hasn't necessarily been truthful representation and reflective of the lives of those people. And so when as an industry, when that happens, you are sort of told, actually, this isn't the place for you to be. And it was never going to change overnight. It was always going to be a whole mixture of work of people coming together and trying to make the change. And it absolutely has. We've made more change over the last few years than has ever has ever been made. And I think that we have only been able to do that because of the incredible people before us that made the change before that, and the people before them that made the change before that. We can only be where we are because of those people. I just think that the world has changed at a slightly quicker rate, and so we've started to see changes more than ever. But saying that, and I always say the same thing, that now is not the time for us to become complacent. It's really easy when change is happening to take your foot off the accelerator and think, oh, well, it's working though, isn't it? I saw a disabled person on a show the other day, there was a disabled person in that film. I think we're okay. I think we've got it sorted. That's one of the biggest risks when change is starting to happen, and we're seeing brilliant things start to change. So yes, it's going well, and now is the time that we have to press down on the accelerator more than ever, because that's when I think we risk becoming complacent. I also think, and I'm not sure, I think it might be similar in America at the moment. Our industry is not in a very good place at the moment. Like we had the pandemic, we had writers' strikes, there were the actors' strikes. You know, even though the UK and America are two different places, that feeds into, you know, the work that's created. And so we've sort of been left with an industry that is a bit, it's non-linear, and it's quite an anxious industry at the moment. We're also in a cost of living crisis. So money wise, it's that the budgets aren't there like they have been. And actually, when people are just fighting for their own survival in the industry, that's another time when underrepresented groups can tend to be forgotten about, because actually everyone's main drive is just being in the industry and working and bringing in money and keeping a roof over their head and staying in the industry that, you know, they've worked in for years. So at this time particularly, we have to remember to not lose the amazing work that has been done for underrepresented groups. It's something we have to kind of keep in the forefront of our minds, really. And it'll change, you know, it has to. Things will change, things will get better. Our beautiful, brilliant industry will go back to being beautiful and brilliant. But that's not to say that there's not a bit of hardship at the moment.
Yeah, no, and I like how you phrased that too, because there is that parallel of when change starts to move forward. It's something that people can see so visibly. Like, even I would imagine for yourself, people getting to see you as a series regular on a show, and then it dawning on people about your disability. They're like, oh, wow, look at that. But then they don't realize things that you might have asked for, all the different types of auditions or things you might have been heard in different auditions to get you to that point that you then had to ask for and change and advocate for yourself, to then just to get you into the visual sense of, well, here's my character and she has a disability and here I am accurately playing her. That there's things behind the scenes that people tend to not realize. Well, those are the parts where it's the challenging part for you as the actor, the people who work with you to make that movement happen, to then make it a visible or accurate storytelling or things like that. And I think that's where, like you said, that kind of sometimes can get lost in the shuffle when you see the momentum and the change happening, that all that backfooting that happened to make it happen tends to be kind of forgotten a little bit by people who aren't part of it.
Yeah. You've hit the nail on the head. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I was even thinking, have you, when you got on to doing Grantchester too, did you have, I know I would always remember seeing you like tweet or put on your Instagram story if different people had reacted to seeing you on the show, and then sometimes people it didn't even dawn on them about your disability until like a whole series later, and they're like, oh, wait a minute. And like, it didn't even dawn on them. But have you had like anything that was like a really meaningful reaction to you playing Miss Scott, or something that really kind of has struck home with you as more and more people, and like you said, it's very popular in the States too, and more people have gotten to know who you are as well?
Yeah, I think it's been a really humble mix. You know, there's
it's such a great way to say it, Melissa. You're like, it's really humble mix.
it's a humble mix. There's now like the internet to bring you back down to earth. Just in case you thought it was going too well. Yeah, you know, there's such lovely reactions of people who, ones that usually come to mind are people that have got children or grandchildren that might have a limb difference, and they've said about watching their child or grandchild's reaction to me being on the screen and what that's done, and that will always be just incredible to hear. Like, nothing quite compares to that. I think some of the things that I often read are, I read some not long ago that were, one of them was, you know, why do they always make her carry a clipboard? It's like they want to hide her arm. And I was like, and they were like, the way she holds it is hiding her arm. It's not. I wish there was a big story behind that. The only way that I can hold something and I'm just holding up a piece of paper in front of me now. If I hold it with two hands, I have to be able to have it up in front of me. So there's not a story behind it. And then other people kind of were saying things like that, where they said, I love the fact that the directors make her hold things so that you can't see her arm as much. And I'm like, they don't do it for that reason. But if they did, how strange that your reaction would be that you love that they're doing that. Like, that's a really peculiar one. I got one recently that said that someone was trying to make a joke, and they said, it's a good job that Melissa's character on Grantchester is about the long arm of the law and not the long arms of the law. So I let this guy just have his moment, and just sort of said, well, firstly, that doesn't actually make sense, because the joke is long arm of the law, not long arms. So it if we're going to be funny, you've got the way that we are funniest in life is when you're telling the truth. Like, truth and comedy are a perfect match. Mm-hmm. and that's not true. But also, I think I retweeted it and said, here we go. I'm going to give you the platform that you wanted with this joke. If I could give you any advice, it would be work on your delivery. I don't think you executed that in the best way. But keep trying, and maybe one day you'll be really funny. So I think, as I say, there will always be a lovely, healthy, humble mix of those who think that my job as an actor is about political correctness and is what's the world coming to, she's obviously just been given that because she has one arm. There will always be those voices, and to drown those voices out, there will always be the voices that say, I just didn't notice, I didn't care, I cared enough to know that you've come up against a lot of stuff, and fair play to you for just keeping going. Thank you for being a role model. Thank you for showing that my teenage daughter, who is hiding her arm at the moment, that she doesn't have to hide it. Those will always be the things that drown out the other voices.
Yeah, I like the way you phrased that too. It comes with it, but it's the way you look at the two of them together that does give you a better scope of it.
Yeah.
And even last question, I wanted to always ask, if you could give yourself a dream role. I know you said if you could hone in on television, you could go into a certain type of genre or like a different type of period piece, or you might surprise me and be like, I really want to go on a sci-fi show, Dominique. Is there something that you would love to go into?
Yeah, I think I love anything that is comedy drama. So anything that has you laughing one minute and can very easily have you a bit tearful the next. They're my favorite kind of dramas, ones that are real and true and gritty and raw and not always beautiful, and sometimes beautiful in a different way. And there's not necessarily like a character that I'm desperate to play. I think 6 years ago when you asked me this, I said a detective.
I did look, and I didn't want to bring it up because I was like, oh, that's very on the nose for the show you're on.
Yeah, it was. I think I said I wanted to be a detective. And look, if you tune in to Grantchester Series 9, which comes out in June, you'll be able to see that within that series, something along those lines become true for me. So yeah, and I think now it really is just about like being in a show that can leave people feeling something incredible. I know the shows that I watch where I go, oh my gosh, I can't get you out of my head. I can't get the characters out of my head. I can't get the stories out of my head. They're the shows that I want to be in, the ones that aren't glamorous necessarily, aren't aesthetically beautiful necessarily, but my gosh, they leave their mark on you.
I like that. And I was just going to say Bridgerton because I think you would look great on that show, but that's totally aesthetic vibes.
Oh no, I don't. There's a lot of Bridgerton that's definitely left a mark on me. I would, I would never say no to Bridgerton.
And Chandraland, if anything, is phenomenal at phenomenal diversity and really phenomenal human storytelling. So I do, if we can manifest on this show, apparently. Manifest
it.
Maybe in another few years, then we'll bring you back on again, and then we'll just clip that we just keep getting you certain types of shows.
Absolutely, and I'll be a mid to late 30s addition to Bridgerton, which I don't, I think that could work.
That could work. They got 8 books. You've got time, basically.
I've got time.
I love that. Oh my God. So guys, before we go into the second half of our show with Melissa, and you guys know it's everyone's favorite storytelling, so that one time is coming up soon. Before we do that, as you know, I always like to thank you guys for checking out InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, listening or watching the podcast. And as you know, this is one of our 6 resources that come out every month through InvisiYouth Charity for free for the teens and young adults living with chronic illness and disability that we're supporting around the world in the 11 countries that download and use our resources. So it really is helpful that 100% of every donation that comes to InvisiYouth Charity allows our resources to be fully funded and be provided and given for free to so many deserving teens and young adults that are trying to have access to some techniques and empowerment tools to improve the non-medical aspects of their life living with chronic illness and disability. So if you are able to donate, it is on the screen and it's in the show notes. If you would like to just pay it forward and share that with your family and friends as well, it always helps us so much. So we always like to thank you. And if you can support and donate, that is wonderful. And without further ado, we're going into the favorite segment, everyone. It is So That One Time.
So that one time.
You guys know I love So That One Time because, number one, I love to sit back and drink some coffee as my guests tell me a story I'm super going to be shocked with the rest of you. But it's also when I let my guests take the mic and share about something in their life. So, Melissa, the mic is yours. Take it away.
Ooh, so that one time on my birthday last year, 2023, June 21st, I'm a summer solstice baby, so it's Midsummer's Day. My partner Dan asked if I wanted to go for a picnic on top of the hill, which is next to our house. There's a beautiful bit of countryside near where we live, and there's a hill, and on the top of the hill is something called Hart's Head Pike. So it's a huge pike that's been there for hundreds of years. And a few days before my birthday, I had walked London Fashion Week for the first time. I don't know if it's something I would do again. I'm not a model, and so I got to pretend to be one, and therefore I got to enjoy it in a different way because I was pretending to be a model and just having a bit of a nice time. I don't think that same level of joy is necessarily true for everyone, because I think there's a lot of pressure for the people who aren't pretending to be a model. So I'd been in London and I had picked up some nasty bug. And in the lead up, the Monday and Tuesday, I'd been really, really poorly. And Dan had said, do you still want to have the picnic on the top of the hill for your birthday? And by this point, I felt so ill that I was desperate to do anything. And I Googled that if you, on summer solstice, you should be as at one with nature as possible. It's meant to do some healing. It's got good healing powers, apparently. And I was desperate for any form of healing. So I said, yeah, let's do it. And it almost killed me climbing to the top of this hill because of how poorly I was.
You're like, when is the healing starting?
Yeah, I was like, it's getting worse. When will I start to feel better? And actually the better did come. So we were on top of the hill and we had a picnic, and our dog Nancy was with us, and she was kind of running around having a lovely time. And I said it was quite funny because we had a blanket on the ground, and I stood up to have a look at the view, and Dan said, "Oh, can you sit? You going to sit back down for a minute?" And I was like, "Oh, okay, bossy." So I sat back down, and then he asked me to stand up so that I could move to a different. But he was like, "Oh, just actually stand up for a second." So I stood up again. Then he asked me to sit back down again, and I was like, "What is this? What is going on? Like, what is this? A game of sit down, stand up?" And then he said, "Yeah, okay, sorry, can you just stand up for me?" And I said, "Yeah." And so
I'm not sitting again.
I know, I'm not sitting again. I don't know what this game is. And so I stood up and just assumed he was going to take a photo of me, because he went into his bag. And so I was like, oh, he's ever the vanity being there. I just assumed that he wanted to take a photo of me with the view in the background. And that's when he got down on one knee and he said, "Melissa Claire Johns, will you marry me?" And the whole world around me kind of was spinning a little bit. I kind of, this is something that I'd wanted for so much of my life, to be with someone that I was so happy with, and turning that into planning a marriage. And I started to realize I was so in the moment with him. And I started to kind of sense that there was someone near me. And I turned around, and it was my little brother, who had climbed up the other side of the hill, which is why Dan was getting me to do a lot of stand up, sit down, because he didn't want me to see my brother. And my brother was approaching, and he recorded the whole thing, which was super lovely. And suddenly this adrenaline rush meant that I just felt better. We went for some food to celebrate, and then as we were eating the food, I was like, oh gosh, the adrenaline is slowly starting to go, and whatever it was that I had came back with a vengeance.
Oh no.
And I ended up in hospital the next day.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so our first full day as an engaged couple, and I was in hospital on a drip. And it was horrible. I just wanted to celebrate what had just happened, and I had honestly never felt illness like it. I went into hospital with suspected meningitis, which it turned out not to be. It was a virus that I had, and I was staying in that night in hospital. So I just wanted to go home and just be with Dan. And I was crying, and there were two older ladies in a bed near me, and they heard me crying, and they said, "Oh, it's okay, don't worry." And it's funny, isn't it, how when you're in hospital, sometimes you go back to being really young. At 33, I sat in this hospital bed, and I went, "It was my birthday yesterday, and I got engaged." And these two older ladies were like, "Oh, darling, oh God, you shouldn't be in here, should you? Not your birthday." And I said, "I know." And they said, "Oh, should we help you come up with wedding ideas?" And so we were sort of like just in a ward, basically, coming up with wedding ideas with people that I'd just met that weren't my fiance. So yes, that happened, and so even though it was encompassed with a whole load of drama, as is me and my life, I wouldn't change any of it. It was the most magical summer, and we get to do it all again this autumn, surrounded by loads of people.
Oh, I love that. That was so sweet. In my head, I was like, this feels like your engagement story a little. And then it started to dawn on me, and I was like, oh, it is. Yay.
Yeah, my video is on is on Instagram. I didn't care how basic it was. I always knew that I wanted to post my engagement video with the moment that Taylor Swift sings down on the ground and pulled out a ring and said, and so as soon as that video was there, Taylor was straight in the background, and onto Instagram it went.
I love that, Taylor Swift moment of everyone's lives. I love it.
Absolutely.
I love it so much. That was so sweet. And actually, that transitions great into some of what is going to be in our final segment, everybody. We're going into our last segment with Melissa. What's Your Life playlist?
What's your life playlist? What's your life playlist?
What's Your Life playlist is our new spin on an OG segment with InvisiYouth Chat Sessions, and we are going to be getting into some different aspects that make up the playlist of our lives, and specifically the playlist of Melissa's life, where we tap into some of her work in the new chapters of life she's embarking on, her philanthropy, and so many other things. So I know I had kind of like tapped on it in the beginning of the show and had mentioned, but you have done so much incredible work with TripleC that you co-founded and DANC as well. And it's a lot of so much advocacy and workshops that really can, for artists coming in who have disabilities or chronic illness, really finding their own and building that growth for them. So is there something you've learned now? I don't want to call you a veteran actress, but in a way that they're in these different career paths to you, are there things that when you go to those workshops or planning that work that you then learn from them as they're coming in to the industry and coming into the stuff that TripleC and DANC do?
Yeah, so I think, everything that we do feels like a bit of a Swiss roll approach. So the next thing is kind of feeding into the next thing, feeding into the next thing. And you certainly never know everything. I think one of the worst personalities that you can grow to have is someone that thinks they don't need to learn anymore. And actually, there isn't much joy in life unless we're open to learning something new every day. And everyone has such a different, rich lived experience that it would be impossible to know everything. What someone's access requirements are. I'm still learning about access requirements for people that I'm like, oh, brilliant, that's what works for you. I've never known that. Maybe I'll try it. Or maybe, there are so many opportunities for us to learn kind of in so many different situations. And I think, especially with TripleC, we have a few different areas. We have our young persons strand, we have our community strand, and then we have DANC, which is one of our strands, the Disabled Artists Networking Community. And we now have over 1,800 deaf, disabled and or neurodivergent creatives on the database. So I think when we first spoke, DANC had just launched
it did.
A few months before. And I think at that point we had 200 or 300 people on the database. And we're now at 1,800, which is really exciting.
Amazing.
We won a BAFTA in 2022. We won the BAFTA Special Award for our services to the industry. And all of that genuinely I think that the success of the organisation has come from a couple of things. One of them is that it is ran and led by people with lived experience. Mm-hmm. So we all are, lived experience in two capacities. One, that we all work in the industry. So we're not people that think we know about the industry but have never actually worked in it. We are all actors, writers, directors, producers, script editors, comedians, dancers, musicians. Everyone is working in the industry in some capacity. And then we all have lived experience of being deaf, disabled and or neurodivergent. And so bringing those two things together allows us to drive the company with such rich lived experience, but also that we have always been a company that says sorry if we got something wrong. Would you mind explaining to me? We will pay for consultancy. We will pay to hear your lived experience. We have just been an organisation that have just tried where possible to listen to what is needed. And I think that's super important. I always say that if there's one thing I think would change the world, it would be if every single person looked in the mirror and practiced saying, I'm so sorry, I didn't know that. Thank you for telling me. If we could all practice saying that, the world would be a different place, because so many of the things that happen that are negative come from an area of defense, of not knowing, but then not being able to say, oh gosh, I didn't realize. defense and anger and all of those things. I just think that if we were able to individually each feel really empowered to say the word sorry and say, I didn't know that, thank you for letting me know, thank you for letting me know that that's not the terminology we use, or thank you for letting me know that you prefer to describe yourself in this way. The world would be a different place if we didn't take everything so personally when we got it wrong, and just said, sorry, I didn't realize, thank you for telling me. It's something that's always worth practicing.
Yeah, and I love how you phrase that too. It's like you said, when you said that it is sort of like a Swiss roll, the work that you guys do, that it does, the different kind of arms of it do feed into one another and cross into one another, and that's so empowering for people, like you said, coming into an industry that allows for that creativity to flex, but that also then doesn't allow a lot of boundaries or buffers to like work within, because you're doing creative work, so trying to find a lane when you're also trying to be creative and think outside the box, and there is no box to put you in. It's like this weird duality at the same time. So to hear it from people who do the work but also are living with experiences with illness or disability or neurodivergence, and sort of getting to explain it in different ways that you can kind of learn, like you said, from each other, I think that's something that's really impactful and does help people moving forward as well. And then even kind of on the opposite end of things that you have going on, like obviously you mentioned in your story time about you getting married. I wanted to ask too, because I know you had touched on it when we had spoken last, like you've had such an evolution in your life outside of your different careers. I know something so many young people always come to the charity and ask about when they're dating with a chronic illness or disability and trying to find a partner that can really balance them and is capable of supporting them, and that you're able to support. What about, I would say, your relationship now with Dan, would you say this is where you feel the most valued and is such a good step into this new chapter of your life? Or what have you learned from it that you would then give as advice to other young people that are trying to navigate finding that partnership with someone?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that if somebody doesn't accept or love or celebrate or embrace the way that you are, maybe that's a chronic illness, maybe that's you have a body difference, whatever that might be, chasing that is only ever going to end in tears and make you feel horrible. And there are so many good people out there, but sadly the ones that aren't so nice seem to be the ones that stay in our minds for longer. And I think we just have to try to learn a way of removing the space that they take up, so that you can allow other people into your life. And also timing, I didn't meet Dan until I was 31. And before that, I had been in a relationship for 8 years that was not the right relationship. And it wasn't a relationship I should have been in. But actually being really truthful is so important. I got to 31 and thought, I don't think I can leave this relationship because, I'm 31 and we have a house and we had a dog, and, I just thought, I think it's probably easier to stay. But actually that going for the easy option isn't always going for the best option. And I know it's really hard to be brave and make decisions that in your own head. Every single person knows whether someone is right for them or not, even if we don't want to admit it. And the one thing that I am so grateful for the thing I'm most grateful for in my whole life, is that I had the courage and I was brave enough to leave a life that I was really unhappy in. Because I now, taking that chance means that I now genuinely can't believe how lucky I am to live the life that I get to live. I didn't know that there was love and respect out there like the love and respect I get now. I didn't know that existed. I didn't know that as a woman I could be treated that way. I didn't know that I could be loved that way. when my friends used to talk about their partners and their relationships, I was a bit cynical, and I would sort of smile, and then, you know, kind of behind their backs, I'd think, oh God, who are they kidding? Like, they're obviously just having to say that. You know, I know that's not real. It can't be real. The only reason I didn't think it was real is because I hadn't ever felt it myself. And oh my God, you see love in a different way when you realize that the respect you should have always had, you're finally getting. We should never be treated less than. We should never be respected less than. We should never be loved less than, even though the world has told us that because we're different, we should be. I think that's when we have to find the strength to fight back against what the world has always told us. I was constantly told, and maybe members of the charity will also find this, but always told to love myself. You know, you really need to learn to love yourself, Melissa. And it was only the last couple of years where I've realized that I didn't learn to hate myself in the first place. I wasn't born hating the body that I had. I was born into a world that told me that I should not like my body. So sometimes I just think, let's have less pressure on people telling us to love ourselves when actually we weren't the people that disliked ourselves in the beginning. The world and the way it's set up did that for us. And if you want to have a down day, you have a down day. If there's days when sometimes I do want to put a big jumper on and hide my body away, I'm going to do that because that's my right. It is my right to be able to react to what the world has given me. But being in a safe partnership with someone that understands access requirements, understands that you're not going to manage that as well today, maybe tomorrow, or if they help with this, that might help with how you manage tomorrow. Having someone that just understands that is an absolute game changer, and now allows me to live my life in a way that I never thought would be possible. So yeah, I think there is a massive thing about being true to yourself and allowing yourself to experience whatever it is that needs to happen.
Yeah, I love that. Like you said, it's sort of that patience is something that can be taught and grown in someone when that partnership is correct, that you can sort of learn from one another, and you can teach what that how to be independent for yourself looks by somebody supporting you, and that they can learn to be patient with themselves as they learn how to support you, because things are new to them too. But finding someone that's willing to do that then also makes you feel comfortable and confident and safe enough to teach them, because a lot of times that's always the discord is, I feel nervous to do that. But if you're with someone that makes you feel that confidence, but also that safety and ease, that you feel willing to teach them how to help you, or, oh, that probably wasn't the best way to do that for me, could you try this way, then that allows you, ironically will bring out a confidence that allows them to then be more supportive to you in the long run. So it is, like you said, finding the correct footing and being willing and confident to know that you still have the right, and it should be that way regardless of a disability or a health circumstance as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I love that. And Melissa, one final quick question before we end. I wanted to know if you could give, I would say, like 20-year-old Melissa, she's about to graduate from acting school and she's going into the world. If you could tell her one piece of advice, what would you say?
Never lose the little girl that is still there, because she deserves so much more. The one way that I changed my life, and I massively changed my life. I changed my life from the way I viewed myself. I changed my life from, at one point I hated my body so much I wouldn't even get up and dance at a party because I hated the body that I had. I would let people love me in a way that wasn't really love. And I wasn't living the best life that I possibly could. And the way that I changed that was my granddad, when I was born in 1990, he bought a video camera. He documented the majority of my life. And the family had got hold of the footage and were kind of making videos out of them. And one day I sat and I watched this video of probably 5-year-old me, in a tutu, just dancing, doing the best, worst ballet ever, and just not giving a crap about anything or anyone. And I just remember thinking, like, I'm not giving you the life that you deserved. At that age, you knew that you were special and wonderful and deserved to be loved. And where did that go? And why do I now think I don't deserve that? So it would to myself and to anyone, actually, if you can ever get hold of childhood footage, childhood photos, have a look at them and remember how much that little person is still very much there. And on the days when you can't do it for yourself, do it for them.
I love that. That's such a good way to end the episode, Melissa. Perfect advice. I love that. And I want to make sure everybody can find you on social media and what you have coming up. So tell our listeners and viewers where they can find you online.
I am doing that. I am terrible with social media. So on Instagram, I am all lowercase, Melissa, MELISSA _Johns, JOHNS _1. And it's a photo of me on a red carpet wearing a black dress. And I think I'm something similar on Twitter, Melissa Johns. I don't think there's too many of us, which makes it useful.
I love that so much. And guys, we're going to have Melissa's links below, and also we will link and remind all of, especially Melissa had mentioned it, when you are in the States, if you are listening or watching from the States, you can see the new series 9 of Grantchester coming out in June as well for all of our States people. Ironically, we get it before the British get their own show. So, you know, God love that. And as always, you can find InvisiYouth on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at InvisiYouth, and the InvisiYouth Chat Sessions podcast. You can also subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere you listen. Make sure you click that subscribe button, write a nice positive review, give us 5 stars, whatever you would like to do. All of those things are super helpful for us. And Melissa, thank you so much for coming back on the show. I had so much fun with you today.
It was brilliant. It's so lovely to come back 6 years later. And life has certainly changed.
I love it so much. And as always, guys, I will speak with all of you soon on the next episode. Bye, everybody.